What's up, Genshin F2Ps? Welcome to my guide on the new Genshin 3.0 September Part 1 Spiral Abyss. As you guys can see here, I've already cleared my Abyss 36 stars. I did it all live on Twitch, so if you guys would like to swing on by and hang out, have fun, and get some informational content live, make sure you head over to twitch.tv/notJshoea. Also, if you guys are looking for something more than just account reviews, I will be starting one-on-one coaching sessions live on Twitch. So make sure to go to any of my videos, scroll down here, and you will be able to join my community Discord, by which you should be able to request a one-on-one coaching session with yours truly. With that being said, let's head straight into the guide. Firstly, I would like to mention a little tip on floor 10. Understandably, floor 10 is actually much easier this time around, and some of the enemies that came from floor 11 in the last iteration, like the Kairagis, the Fatui Mirror Maiden, and the Electro Mages, are actually getting a downgrade in their potency, such that they should be relatively easier to take down. However, understandably, they are able to throw debuffs at you guys, so make sure that you have some form of resistance to interruption, such that we're able to cut those out and rotate through our teams smoothly. Now, let's get to the meat and the potatoes. Firstly, floor 11. Floor 11, floor 1, chamber 1, introduces the Eremite squad, as well as a few treasure hoarders to attack the tower. Basically, it's one of those tower defenses. Generally, these are relatively easy, and what happens is that all of these minions and enemies are generally fixated on dealing damage to the tower. That's their priority. You can shave off a couple of seconds and allow these enemies to come closer to the tower such that they're much easier to manipulate. Then, when it comes to floor 11, chamber 1, part 2, there are a bunch of Lawa Churls and Mida Churls, which generally you should not be having a problem with. When we get to floor 11, chamber 2, part 1, this first part introduces a bunch of Hydro Mimics, including one of the Hydro Birds. If you do not have a bow character or a character that is able to attack at a higher reach, you might have trouble trying to call these birds down in order to deal damage to them, and thus will run you out of time. The second half being both Pyro and Electro Geovisharps, they are able to throw a few debuffs at you, but generally if you're able to evade them and deal damage, they should not necessarily be any problem. Floor 11, chamber 3 actually introduces a new enemy, the Electro Regisfine. In part 1, you're facing off against a few Fatui Pyro agents, skirmishers, as well as a few of the Eremite Desert Clear Waters, the dancers. They look incredible, but unfortunately, you're gonna have to put them down. In the second half, we go up against the Electro Regisfine, and there are two ways to actually approach this fight effectively. The first is actually to run through the small seeds that they actually produce, such that they drop their guard and lower their weak spot, the center stamen. If you're not able to defeat the Electro Regisfine from this position within, let's say, 2 to 3 rotations of your team, you might run into trouble with trying to finish, as it will recover and you have to start the process all over again. Alongside this, the Electro Regisfine also is susceptible to weak spot hits via bow characters, so characters such as Gon Yu and other charge attackers will have a field day against the Electro Regisfine. In summary of floor 11 as a whole, there are not too many elemental or character requirements, but in particular with the chamber 2, part 1, you run into the Hydro Mimics. I highly suggest that you bring a few cryo characters with that team. Now, moving on to floor 12, the challenging part. And in chamber 1, part 1, we run into two versions of the Ruin Drakes. First, the Earth Guards, which are basically the dinosaurs, and we run into two of them. Here is one of my better runs. I actually had tried an initial run with a taser comp, however that proved to be less effective. So running a comp such as this with Hu Tao and double Hydro gets the job done quite effectively. Then moving into the Skywatch, basically the hawk or the bird. This enemy will prove very difficult if you are not able to take advantage of its weak spot. During this specific attack chain, you are able to actually hit its exposed weak spots, thus forcing the Skywatch to crash into the ground. At this point, it should averagely take 2 or 3 rotations of your characters to finish off this machine bird thing. If not, we might have a problem with our damage, as this is one of the first DPS checks of floor 12. The second half of Chamber 1, floor 12 provides us with more Fatui skirmishers and eremites. These mobs in particular have a pyro shield, which can prove to be very difficult to break. A few suggestions on elemental shield breaks include utilizing a Nemo, utilizing Zhongli or other forms of shred, or just by using Hydro and or other quick reactions. To piggyback off of the Hydro comment, Hyper Bloom or any of the Bloom reactions will do perfect in this situation. Chamber 2 introduces back the Fatui Mirror Maiden and the Fatui Electro Mage, as well as a few extra crossbow mobs. In my opinion, this is another DPS check for your team, as if you're not able to comfortably DPS these minions without maintaining some form of CC control, it is going to be very difficult, as the Mirror Maiden and Electro Mage will throw many debuffs at you. Utilize transformative reactions, a Nemo CC, or even just one Zhongli meteor, and you should be able to clean up this half efficiently. In the second half of Chamber 2, we have a pyro version of the Primo Geovisharp. And some problems can arise if you do take too much time with the Fatui mages and the Maiden. You might run into a timeout. Here, it is incredibly important that one of the key factors that you bring into this fight be resistance to interruption. There are 2 ways we can go about resistance to interruption. Firstly, by introducing shields into our comp. Characters like Zhongli, Diona, and Toma will work incredible during this fight, as it will allow you to just rotate through your team composition without doing any damage to your characters. Secondly, and what I demonstrate here in my Spiral Abyss run, is a quick swap comp. This will allow you to quick swap into your other characters' kits very effectively and efficiently enough such that you can utilize the iframes of ultimates to evade attacks. Although the rotations here aren't necessarily the cleanest, dodging and utilizing ultimates will allow you to still rotate through your abilities of your teams, and then, as you can see here with the Raiden ultimate, it does huge damage and basically no cost to my team's HP. Now, with that, the first and second chamber out of the way, we get to Chamber 3, Part 1, arguably one of the more difficult parts of this Spiral Abyss iteration. There will be 2 waves. First, a wave of 3 Bathysmal Visharps, with one of them being a primordial Hydro Bathysmal Visharp. Please do not underestimate this guy. He is incredibly tanky. And not only that, each of them have 3 different elements. Again, Hydro, and then Cryo and Electro. All 3 elements will be able to introduce many of their respective types of debuffs. Crowd controlling in this instance will be key in order to finish these guys off effectively. The second wave are just 3 different elemental types of shrooms, which they generally aren't that bad. However, they can run you time, as seen here. You actually have to run to each. They are incredibly spread out. As for the first half of Chamber 3, ideally you get through all of the Visharps within a span of 30 to 45 seconds. This will allow you enough time for the whole second half of Chamber 3. And finally, with the last half of the last chamber of floor 12, we have the Jade Plume Terror Shroom. This mushroom chicken honestly doesn't pose that big of a threat. This mob is incredibly transparent with its particular attacks, so if you have faced this mob within the overworld trying to farm for character ascension materials, you should be quite familiar with its attack patterns and rotations. The one thing to note with the Terror Shroom is that there will be an instance where it starts dashing across the battlefield twice. When this scenario occurs, you want to be able to time the Terror Shroom such that you end up at the position where it'll end and it'll just drop dead like a chicken without its head, and you'll be able to wail into the enemy. Arguably, the Primordial Bathysmal Visharp from the first half would be the last DPS check. However, if you are not able to defeat the Terror Shroom within 2 or 3 team rotations after this instance, you might need to check your DPS of that second half. As for team composition suggestions, we do highly suggest you utilize the Dendro teams and the Dendro reaction comps that are meta right now. Aggravate is an incredibly powerful team composition, and if utilized properly, as seen within my gameplay, you'll be able to quick swap between those characters and come out with the dub. Suggestions for the first half on all 3 chambers of floor 12, we do highly suggest that you bring a pyro-oriented character such that they're able to mow down a lot of those enemies who do react with pyro, such as the Primordial Hydro Bathysmal Visharp and the Fatui Mirror Maiden and Electromage. With that being said, that ends my guide for the Spiral Abyss Genshin 3.0 September Part 1 iteration. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel for more informative content like this, and make sure you hop onto the Twitch when we go live such that you guys can catch all of this content when we do it right on the spot. Again, if you guys are interested in a one-on-one coaching session where I not only go through build guides, but I also go through gameplay, mechanics, team composition, team building, rotations, etc., please, I would invite you to jump into my community Discord, where I'll be having a form in which you can submit your name and we'll get you on the waitlist. Again, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you gleaned a lot of information from this video. Until next time, Josh out.